Hello and good morning. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com is where you're going to get your next vehicle. Low interest rate, great residuals, plus nice stock on the ground. I'm talking F-150s, Escape, Bronco Sports, Broncos, you name it. Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario is the place that you're going to support for your next vehicle, because when you do that, you support the podcast project that is almost through its seventh season. Mr. Augello in Cheektowaga, New York, Norm James in London, Ontario, Sunday, May 25th, 2025. Watching the Stanley Cup semifinals. Looks like the Florida Panthers are going to finish off the Carolina Hurricanes with relative ease, and I think the Stars and the Oilers are going to go down to the wire. That series tied at 1 right now. In terms of the Maple Leafs, Keith Pelly having his say about the direction of the club, or the direction he'd like the club to go in, and offering a little bit of insight as to why Brendan Shanahan's no longer with the organization and how he's going to reallocate some of that power to a guy who is going to be central to making this team better in the future, and that is Brad Treliving. Mr. A, how are you?
Good morning. The Pelly press conference was interesting. It wasn't chock full of new news in terms of like what the situation will be going forward. I mean, he wasn't going to dip into the hockey operations aspect of the club, because I don't think that's where Keith Pelly is going to go. He's essentially going to be a sounding board for Brad Treliving, and Brad Treliving and Craig Berube are going to have more control over the roster decisions. The thing that came out of it that I was not surprised at, but I think some other people were, is that Brendan Shanahan was let go just as much for sort of the culling of the herd at MLS&E as he was for the stupidity of his decisions over the last few years. I mean, you saw apparently, and I don't follow MLS, but Toronto FC's president his job was eliminated. I think their GM now has more control. We know there's Masai Ujiri with the Raptors has one more year left on his contract, and maybe that means he'll be gone. Now Rogers Communications is taking over almost 100% control of the Maple Leafs and MLS&E over the next couple of years. Based on the way they operate with the Blue Jays, that's something that should be scary. But the Leafs is not Major League Baseball in Toronto. The Leafs are central in terms of what they need to focus on, and I think that will mean a different thing. But Shanahan's position was eliminated not only because of what he did, but what job he had.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. Get at me for your next vehicle. Thanks so much to Mark Stevens and the crew for their support of this project. So Keith Pelly indicating that the organization is going to trim fat, save millions of dollars. For fans, the millions of fans of the teams that Rogers owns, Leafs, Raptors, Toronto FC, Argos, all these organizations. How does what Keith Pelly described as the future of this organization as a whole benefit the fan going forward? Sure, $1 million executives will no longer be hired. You're giving more autonomy and more opportunity to the general managers. But how is this going to, generate more success where it really matters, and that's on the ice?
Well, I mean, he said a lot of nice platitudes. I think good is not good enough. Winning. Pressure is a privilege. I mean, great. It's like all these things that you have on a little thing on your desk. Zippity doo dah. No, it's results. And he said it's a results-oriented business. And he says the goal of this team is to win the Stanley Cup. Well, I've heard that forever, and I've heard that from all over the places. It's what you do. It's how you go about doing that. And we know that right now. This year they don't have a first-round pick in the draft, but they have a lot of draft picks. Over the next couple of years, they don't have first-round picks. So, maybe they get that from. They could get a first-round pick if they do a sign and trade with Mitch Marner, but don't hold your breath. It may not happen. it's tough to sort of reset and rebuild the organization and keep that engine going that you need to with young prospects when you don't have a lot of draft picks. You can sign a lot of college free agents, but that doesn't guarantee that they're going to make the NHL. So they're going to have to dip into trades and dip into free agency and get their players that way over the next couple of years. And I think they can do that. And I think that they're where they are right now, Norm. I mean, they're a team that their core is still relatively young in their mid-20s, Matthews and Nylander, but they have some age. And their window is the next couple years. So that's where Treliving has to, take advantage of his experience and go out and get players that will help this team win a Stanley Cup within the next 2 or 3 years. Because then after that point, Tavares, who I think will be back, Tanev, some of the other defensemen will be in their late 30s. The window will be closed. And unless they have a unexpected lengthy careers like Joe Pavelski, or they start to get other players coming in the organization, then the window will probably be closed.
Edward Lee, Rogers has so many media talking heads, they can sell anything to the fans.
Well, I mean, that's Pelly's job. He's the CEO of MLS&E. And I believe me, I agree with that assessment. I mean, the only example of pure ownership when it comes to Rogers is the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. And as you know, wearing the hat that you're wearing, Norm, they were in on Ohtani. Where did he go? The Dodgers. They were in on Soto. Where did he go? The Mets. In Major League Baseball, for some reason, and I know this is different because I live in Buffalo and Toronto is basically my second home. These Major League Baseball players don't want to live in Canada unless they're overpaid. Like they overpaid Santander. And they've overpaid other players. I don't get that. In Toronto with hockey, it's different. It's the difference is the pressure is more, but the rewards are more. If you ever win in Toronto as a hockey player, you're a god. So that's the different thing. But the thing is, in Major League Baseball, you can throw unlimited money at these players, and there is a salary cap in the NHL.
Do you think that the fan base at large is content with the organization parting ways with Brendan Shanahan? Are they cool with it? Are they ready to move forward? Did it matter? I mean, we knew, you can break down the positives and the negatives of his tenure, and the positives slanted more towards when he joined the team over a decade ago to help resurrect it from the depths of despair and near irrelevancy. Now, though, with him being gone, are fans cool with that, or where do you think their focus lies?
I mean, polls are never completely accurate, but I saw an online poll that it was 90-10. Yes, that it was okay to get rid of Shanahan.
What about the media, Mike? What about the media? Damian Cox, Steve Simmons, these guys just put together columns, stalwarts in the.
Yeah.
In the Toronto media realm, whether you like them or not, they've been around forever. Not necessarily saying that the parting of ways with Shanahan is a bad thing, but the questions are, what do we do now, and how can we trust Brad Treliving to have more power when his record is relatively spotty? I mean, not the worst, but not the best, with no cups to show for it.
Right. I mean, I understand that. And, you have to put the factor in there that he was the GM of the Calgary Flames for over a decade. And he did draft Matthew Tkachuk. He did draft Sam Bennett. They did have good players. They had that team a few years ago that gave Edmonton a run for their money. And then players didn't want to play in Calgary anymore. They didn't want to get paid. Maybe Calgary's budget was limited, and they ended up having to trade Tkachuk because he wasn't going to re-sign there and things of that nature. So, I mean, it's a different situation in Toronto than it was in Calgary. So I think that sort of mitigates his lack of a championship. But I think the type of manager that Treliving is fits more with what Toronto fans want to see out of their team. And Berube is going to have more of an input as well into what the roster is going to be like. And I understand the reservations of Steve Simmons and Damian Cox. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen going forward. We know almost for sure, almost 100% that Mitch Marner is walking out the door. So that's going to be a difference. And,
right.
I will give Brendan Shanahan credit for this. and this is not a small thing. He convinced the MLS&E board, who had always resisted tanking and going to the bottom, to tank and go to the bottom. Because how many years did we? They didn't tank. They didn't get Stamkos. They got Luke Shen. They didn't tank. They didn't get John Tavares. They got Nazem Kadri. All these years. Then they traded first round picks for Phil Kessel, and it ended up being Tyler Seguin. It was finally that middle year of the 2013-14 season when he fired, or 2014-15 season when he fired Carlisle and got the approval from the MLS&E board to tank. They got Marner out of that 4th overall. Then the next year they made the team bad to get the number 1 pick. They got the number 1 pick. They got Austin Matthews. The core group of this team was built on 2 years of tanking. Mm-hmm. So I give Brendan Shanahan credit for that. But the miscalculations that he did from 2021, when it was clear that this team wasn't good enough and needed to change things, to 2025 is why he's out the door.
You just wanted to see it through, though, Mike.
At a certain point, Norm, everybody, I'm not a general manager in the NHL. I've watched the game since I was 4 years old. I'm sorry. Anybody watching this friggin' team knew they weren't going to win. They didn't have what it took.
Right. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Give us a shot, guys. We appreciate it. If you're on TikTok, follow us there. Leafs Convo clips. Mike is just absolutely burning up that medium. Everybody loves to hear what Mike has to say, and people like to comment it on his clips as well. The Leafs don't need any more big names when it comes to figureheads or executives. We're good. What I'd like to see are big name players with big game capabilities joining this organization to help push its agenda forward, and that is to stay perennially atop the league with opportunity each and every season to win a championship, at least over the next 5, 6, 7 years, while there is a core, while there are some amazing players, before any rebuild has to happen. That is my focus. If Keith Pelly can help guide Brad Treliving and Craig Berube and whomever to do that with more purpose and better results, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's possible. Treliving is well connected throughout the league, is well connected to players. I mean, look at last year. They brought in Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev, he signed in Calgary. Mm-hmm. I knew Chris Tanev, and he knew what type of player was. I mean, you and I knew. We've heard Chris Tanev rumors in Toronto going back to 2016. So it was inevitable that Chris Tanev was going to end up on the Leafs. And he made a really big difference this year. He goes out and he signs Oliver Ekman-Larsson to a 4-year deal. Treliving was an assistant general manager in Arizona when Oliver Ekman-Larsson was breaking in the league. He knows Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He knows what kind of player he is. He brings him in. There's a recognition there from Treliving of what is needed for this team. Now, this is the area where I think there's some concern, because the 2025 free agent class is not great. The 2026 free agent class is great. Mm-hmm. And, number 97, more than likely, everybody would love to see Connor McDavid hit the open market. It's probably not going to happen. He's probably going to re-sign in Edmonton. Or if he's not, or if he's not, they're going to trade him before, unless he has a no-move clause, then he basically prevents it, and he walks the free agency next July.
I mean, Mike, sorry to interrupt. He would be the biggest free agent signing in the history of the game. Yes. And the biggest sign and trade in the history of the game. So the implications are massive. The Maple Leafs would be at the front of the line, already committed millions and millions and millions of dollars to players of that caliber. I wouldn't say it's foolish to believe that, but I mean, it's going to take a near miracle for the Maple Leafs to have an opportunity to land this guy. I mean, never say never. But
it's the biggest one since Gretzky was traded to LA, and he wasn't a free agent, but we know the reasons for that were more financial and personal than they were hockey-wise. And that team was still good enough to win a Stanley Cup after they traded Gretzky. But, I mean, I'll grant your point. Like I said, I've been told more than likely he's signing in Edmonton, that Draisaitl signed there. And if Draisaitl signed there, more than likely it was like, okay, are you staying? And he said yes, and now they're both going to stay. But there's always a possibility. You never know. I mean, with the cap going up, the likelihood is more that he stays there. But
real quick, do you think there's any part of Connor McDavid that wants to jump into the American market and make more money?
No.
Of advertising and endorsement dollars, or
no.
Do you think he's content, and whether it's Canada or United States, it's not a big deal as long as he wins?
I think winning is the most important thing. And honestly, Connor McDavid is sort of like Sidney Crosby, where they don't have that ebullient personality to be an advertising guy. It's not like, Matthew Tkachuk is doing advertising in the U.S., stuff like that. I mean, like those are, I haven't seen Austin, I see Austin Matthews commercials every once in a while in Toronto. He's not going to break the bank in terms of advertising. And neither is Connor McDavid, and neither has Sidney Crosby. So I think his focus is going to be winning, and I still think that there's a possibility he would like to play for the Leafs, but I think that's secondary, and I think that he's going to end up signing with Edmonton, but. Kaprizov is out there, right. And there are a number of free agents that are really good that are out there next summer. But the Leafs are not going to waste 1 year of Austin Matthews to wait for free agents in the summer of 2026. They're going to reload. And now, can they get free agents to sign for a year or a couple? Can they, or are they going to have to give them term like they gave? Right. Term to Tanev and term to Oliver Ekman-Larsson? That's where the experience of Treliving is going to come into focus.
So don't expect the Leafs to blow their brains out this summer, yet in a strategic way, they'll spend the money they have to keep the chains moving, to stay competitive, to put themselves in a position to win another division, potentially get to another place where, it's a second, third round of the playoffs with 2026 in mind.
Well, I mean, somebody, Alex in the chat mentioned two players, Provorov and Tanner Jeannot. Okay, Tanner Jeannot is not going to cost them a lot of money because Tanner Jeannot had one big year in Nashville, then was part of that big trade with Tampa. That was a bust. Then he went to LA. He didn't really do that great this year. But he's the type of rambunctious player that Berube liked when he had in St. Louis. And if they can get him for a reasonable amount, then that makes sense. I think they could, like my buddy Jeff Merrick said, the Leafs always spend to the cap. My question is, are they going to spend to the cap for 1 year or multiple years? If they spend and add 3 or 4 players and they get them on 1-year contracts,
right,
and that enables them to be a player this year.
Why spend for the sake of spending when you
don't? No, they're not spending for the sake of spending, Norm. They're spending to win. But I'm saying They don't want to lock themselves into long-term money on players if they could pay a little more for a 1-year deal, and then have money to spend in free agency when the class is better. That's the best of both worlds.
So how do you do that? Looking forward to 2026. Just say, for instance, Connor McDavid is available, or another player who's going to cost $10+ million a season. AAV. How do you refrain from spending to the point where you shortchange yourself when the class is better? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, you can get players that take 1-year deals. There were a number of examples this year of free agents that signed 1-year deals. You just have to pay them, like Jason Zucker in Buffalo. Jason Zucker came off an average year. Buffalo paid him $5 million on a 1-year deal. He had a good year. They signed him to an extension. A lot of these players, if they don't get the money that they want in free agency on July 1, that lasts into July. And sometimes they will take the 1-year deal if they can get a little more money because they're getting more money for less security. there are going to be players out there like that. There will be players that are going to be very helpful that do that. That may be the way that they go. They add 2 or 3 players on 1-year deals, and then they have 15, 16, 17 million dollars plus what they get with the cap going up, going into free agency the following year.
So what does July 1st look like for the Leafs then? If they're looking for potential short-term relationships with new players,
yeah.
Are we to think that July 1st will be Maple Leafless, and then as the days and weeks go on, that's when these kinds of deals will, come together?
I think it'll be both. First, and I've been writing about this in terms of what the outlook for the Leafs going forward. I've been breaking it down by position.
Mm-hmm.
I think the goaltending stays the same. I think it's going to be Stolarz and Wall. I think they're going to probably see if they can get Matt Murray to come back on a 1-year deal, so they have a veteran guy in case one of them gets hurt.
Do you think Murray has an opportunity, or do you think there will be an opportunity for him based on the way he played with the Marlies to earn an NHL job somewhere?
There might be. Based on his resume, but it's a roll of the dice. Is somebody going to be interested in having him as a backup with his history of injuries? He played less than 20 games at the Marlies.
What do you think he's looking for right now? And again, this isn't the Matt Murray show, but it's an interesting story. He's a cup winner, so we can talk about him and feel good about it.
I think he's probably looking to get back in the NHL.
Right.
And if he's looking to get back in the NHL, then it's going to be somewhere other than Toronto.
Right.
In Toronto, he's going to be the number 3 playing for the Marlies, making probably $1 million. If there's not an opportunity for him to be a backup someplace else, then I think he comes back to Toronto.
Is he owed deferred money with another team at all, or is what he's making right now just compounds what he's got in the bank?
Yeah, no, he's. Right. His contract with Ottawa ran out, and there was a split of money when they retained something, but no. So he has nothing coming in other than his current salary. But okay, goaltending is going to stay the same, and unless there is something surprising regarding Morgan Rielly, which I don't believe is going to be the case, but I have heard rumors out there that he might be amenable to a change of scenery. I doubt it. Who brings that up? Does Treliving go to him and say, "Listen, we think you need a change of scenery, and we'd like you to leave"? Or does he have a conversation with Tessa Virtue and say, "Look, I'm from out there. Let's pack up. Let's." But the thing is, Norm, is that there's no guarantee that Vancouver is interested in him.
Okay.
They're in a rebuilding scenario right now.
Would he go elsewhere?
Well, that's up to him, but he's got complete control of this. He's got 3 years on a no move clause before he has a modified no trade. So, and I don't think I think he's pissed off and disappointed that this team has not broken through. I don't think he wants to leave. I think he's immune to the criticism because honestly, he didn't have a great year. He didn't have a terrible year. And once they got Brandon Carlo, he was pretty good. He was great. He was horrible in Game 7. But I don't think there is going to be any change at all on the blue line. They're going to bring back the same 7 defensemen that they have term, which means all the changes are going to be up front. And that means Marner's gone. I think Tavares comes back on a much less onerous salary, maybe,
Do you want him back?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Well, okay.
I'm not being combative. I just want
no.
Because there are some people who think that a guy like Tavares just doesn't have he's just not emotional enough. He typifies some of the problem that has plagued this team. It's just lack of emotion, lack of toughness. Wow. He's been part of the core. So if he's got a chance to leave and you can high five him on the way out, save some money and reallocate that money elsewhere, why not do that with him as well as Marner?
Well, you knew that he was not a tough player when you signed him 7 years ago. Right. He's a skill player. And what did he score? Over 30 goals this year. And with the loss of Marner, what are you going to need? Offense. And you're weak up the middle. So if you're not spending $11 million, which you're not going to, and he wants to stay here, and he has shown previous in his career that he can move from center to wing, which he could probably do in a couple years, but they're weak at center right now. It makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you're not going to get, like you said, rah sis boom ba out of him. He's not an emotional leader. Neither was Matt Sundin, and nobody wanted to get rid of him. But it's like, my God. I mean, he is a quality person. He's a quality player. Bring him back unless he wants to get paid over and above what they want to pay him. And if they let him go, then I'd like to know where they find a number 2 center, because there are not many of them out there in this market.
OG's Converse, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. John Mills, Norman Hope, the vehicle dealership is holding water. It's been tough for sure. Yeah, it's been tough. It's also been pretty decent, thanks to the OGs and converts for supporting me through just about everything. I wanted to keep the show short today for obvious reasons. What else do you want to add, Mike, before we go?
Well, I think that the main focus of Brad Treliving between now and July 1st is getting Matthew Knies signed to an 8-year deal or a long-term deal. I would hope that they've learned the lesson of the Matthews and Marner situations. If you're going to pay these guys money, get them locked up for as long as possible. Don't take a 5-year deal. Don't take a 6-year deal. He's 22 years old. Get the full 8. He can get paid again at age 30. Get the full 8. If you have to pay an extra $500,000, get it done.
Will he ask for a no-move clause as well, or is he in a position to ask for that?
Sure, of course he is. I mean, they all do. They all want some amount, some modicum of control. He's going to.
And this comes down to the player not wanting to be sent to a team against his will, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's
Correct.
it.
Yeah. They want some control over what destination, if they get moved, they're going to. And it's like, not to hurt anybody's feelings. Players don't want to get traded to Winnipeg or Calgary or Ottawa or Buffalo. They want some control. Now, whether it's modified no trade, whether it's 10 teams, 15 teams, 20 teams, or a full no move, they want control. And they, based on what type of player they are and where they're playing, they're going to get it. And Matthew Knies, if he signs an 8-year deal, is going to get some or almost complete control.
The conference finals, Florida is just running all over Carolina. It doesn't seem like Carolina's game jives in a successful way against the Panthers, who are doing what they did to the Maple Leafs again. And it appears the Panthers are off to a 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. We tend to forget that this team did make a final, but the year before it won everything. So what's happening right now is dynastic in a way, especially if they do win it all. So there's that, and then there's also Dallas and the Oilers, which I think are going to go the distance, because it's going to be a knock them down, drag them out there. But for fans who are I wouldn't say content, but feel like the blow is softened because of what the Panthers are doing to the Hurricanes right now. I gotta think that that's just a way for you to develop an excuse as to why the Leafs couldn't get it done against the team that they had a chance to take to put the skate blade to the throat of and didn't. So there really is no excuse, just based on the way that the Panthers are taking apart the Hurricanes. Last word to you. For
those fans, please just shut up.
Right.
Because honestly, okay, great. They brought him to 7 games. We've heard that excuse. Well, they extended Tampa to 7 games, and then they went on to get the Stanley Cup. Okay, that's wonderful. But the goal here is to win the Stanley Cup, not to come in 2nd or 3rd or 4th. And that's where, great. Florida is going through Carolina because Carolina is like the little brother and Florida is like the big brother. They play the same type of game, but Florida is going through them like they're going through a snowbank with a bulldozer or a snowplow. I don't draw any conclusion. I was more impressed with them going through Tampa in as easy a fashion as they did. They're a great team. They're also a team that people hate. The Leafs have positives. but the fact that in the two biggest games of the year,
right,
they got plowed. They weren't, they abandoned their goaltender after he'd been sieged in the first two periods of those two games, and then give up 6 goals. I'm sorry. They're not good enough. They need to change. And just getting to Game 7 against the Stanley Cup, maybe the eventual Stanley Cup champion, does me no good.
Watching what the Panthers are doing to the Hurricanes provides me no consolation as a Maple Leafs fan. I still feel like they had an opportunity to take down the Goliath and couldn't get it done. And little did they know at the time that the implications of failing to score in overtime of Game 3 and take a stranglehold on the series would result in the catastrophe that would ensue. Mike, just extremely disappointing. It's just on to the next milestone now, leading into opportunities for the Maple Leafs to get better. What's the latest at Hockey Hot Stove?
Well, I've been doing a breakdown of the goaltending and the defense and the outlook for what they portend for the next season. I will break up the forwards. I think center is going to be very important for the Leafs, and the signing or not signing of Tavares will be the biggest factor in that.
So is it going to be Panthers Stars or a rematch of Panthers Oilers?
I'm hoping it's going to be Panthers Stars, because I know how Panthers Oilers is going to go. They won't elbow Stuart Skinner in the head because they want him to be in net. They'll just elbow McDavid or Draisaitl.
15, 20 years ago, I would not want another Canadian team to win before the Maple Leafs do, and that's the Stanley Cup. Today, I don't care. And just for shits and giggles, I would like to see Connor McDavid win a Stanley Cup. He's playing for the Oilers. I know how much it would mean to that community. Just for shits and giggles. I'm not on the edge of my seat hoping and praying a Canadian team will take back Lord Stanley's mug and get it out of the United States for the first time since 1993. It's not that. I would just like to see the Oilers win the Stanley Cup. And you know what? I'm over any animosity or any jealousy towards a Canadian team doing what I want my team to do. I'm past that now. And the reason is I think it looks better on the Maple Leafs. It looks so good on them if a team like the Oilers or any other Canadian team could win before them,
I would root for the Jets. I would root for the Flames. I would root for maybe even the Canucks, although in 2011 I wanted the Bruins. I would rather root for Satan than root for the Edmonton Oilers, the Montreal Canadiens, or the Ottawa Senators to win a Stanley Cup. Sorry.
He said his piece, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Augello in Cheektowaga, New York. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We've been on a bit of a roll of late because of everything that's been going on with the Maple Leafs over the last several weeks. No longer playing, but there's still content that we're going to produce because there's always news when it comes to the Maple Leafs. Check us out on Instagram as well as TikTok. And anytime you can support what we do on the ground with Oak Ridge Ford, it would mean a lot. At Norman Oak Ridge Ford for your next vehicle. Hey, I'm your guy for Leafs content. Make me your next guy for your next car buying opportunity. It would mean so much. Mr. Augello, hope you have a great Sunday. Thanks so much for being here. OG's Convert, same to you. The Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford is out.